Hey guys, Masusugopian here from ZeldaDungeon.net, and I'm here to talk about The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks for the Nintendo DS. And in particular, I want to discuss 5 things I felt were wrong with the game that hurt the overall experience. And I'd first like to say that the previous Zelda game on the DS, Phantom Hourglass, I really enjoyed it. I really did. I know it's got criticism from a lot of Zelda fans. Not me. I enjoyed it. I think it's great. It's not my best game of all time, but if I had to say, I'd put it and Spirit Tracks in my top 50 or so. So, Spirit Tracks, it more or less was the same thing as Phantom Hourglass. It changed a lot of things, but there are 5 things that stood out to me that I didn't like. Number 1, the storyline. It started off right with a bang. It started off really well, actually. You hear the backstory of Link, you meet Princess Zelda, you're heading to the Tower of Spirits, and your train gets derailed. And that's where we meet Chancellor Cole for a second time. We find out that he's actually a villain. We meet Berna, who's his sidekick, and Berna is just absolutely like a badass. He's legitimately scary looking, and he looks like a real nemesis. You're gonna fight with him. And then Cole has got he's one of those deluded minds type thing, and you find out he's not even human, and it's really interesting. They really did a good job. The whole atmosphere of this scene, the music builds up, and it's really dark actually too. I mean, Chancellor Cole actually kills Princess Zelda in a way. He separates Princess Zelda's body from her spirit, and then they take off with her body. They steal this princess's body. And then, 10 minutes later, we meet Angine, the sage at the Tower of Spirits. She gives even more backstory. And at this time, I'm really drawn in. I'm really interested in the story. I want to know what happens next. I really do. The problem is, nothing happens next. You go through the next 5 hours of the game, and nothing happens. I mean, in Phantom Hourglass, a lot of people didn't like the game because of the storyline. Even myself, I didn't like it, the story overly much, but there was always something happening. Between dungeon and dungeon, there was always something about Oshus, something about Zelda, something about Linebeck and his side, the evolution of his character, something about the ghost ship. There's always something going on, always something, and even if it wasn't the most interesting story, it kept me at least wanting to know what happens more, and it was consistent. There was always something going on. Spirit Tracks, not the case at all. You go through, after the first 45 minutes of the game, you go through the Tower of Spirits 4 different times. You go through the Forest Temple, you go through the Snow Temple, you go through the Ocean Temple. That's 7 temples. 7 temples before anything happens. Then you finally, after all this time, you go through half of the game, and you finally meet Berna a second time. And there's a scene with him and Angine, of which it gets cut off. We don't even get to see what happens when it really gets interesting. So, and then it's not until you go through the Fire Temple and then the Tower of Spirits for a 5th time. And at this point, if you're progressing in the game, the storyline, it's almost as if this is the end of the game. You really don't know how much is left after. And you've gone through now 9 temples before you finally meet up with Chancellor Cole again. And to me, this is just nonsense. This is just unacceptable. You go through a vast majority of the game, and you don't see the main villain the whole time? Is this really real? I mean, in this day and age when stories become more and more important in games, I don't know. I thought the story was a joke. And Malladus, the Demon King, this is the person that Cole is trying to resurrect. He's basically a pawn trying to bring him back. Haven't we seen this before? I mean, fans were so happy when they saw, oh, Ganon is not going to be in this game. Yeah, Ganon's not in the game, but we have Malladus. And Ganon, okay, think about this. Adventure of Link, they were trying to bring back Ganon. At Link to the Past, Aghanim, they were trying to, well, that was sort of Ganon, but they were trying to bring him back. Oracle of Ages, Varin, they were resurrecting him. And Onyx and Oracle of Seasons, they were just pawns, both of them trying to resurrect Ganon in the combined ending. Twilight Princess, Zant, he was just a pawn trying to bring back Ganon. We've seen this so many times. So, Chancellor Cole, his sole purpose is to resurrect the Demon King. It's the same thing. Same rehashed story we've seen over and over. And then Malladus. When you finally fight him in his final form, he bears a shocking resemblance to Ganon, the Dark Beast form from Twilight Princess. It's the exact same battle. It's the same thing. He's just a different color. You beat him a different way. It's a joke. It's the same thing. And the story, I was I was not happy. I didn't feel appreciated because of the story. And it was just rehashed, empty, same thing we've seen. And they could have done better. It really made me angry, actually. Moving on, though, another thing I didn't really like was the Spirit Flute. And we had a walkthrough at Zelda Dungeon a week after the game came out, and I was getting about 10 to a dozen emails a week, and about half of them were about bitter fans that were frustrated. They absolutely could not play the Locomo songs with the Spirit Flute. It was at the point where it seemed like they were yelling at me because they couldn't figure it out. They were so frustrated, they couldn't figure it out, and it seemed to the point where some of them stopped playing the game because they couldn't get by. And even for me, it was a little hard because I never understood when you were supposed to start playing, because you were playing the song and then the notes would light up. And I assumed when I was playing that once the notes light up, you're supposed to start playing them. That would make sense, wouldn't it? No, you're actually supposed to wait until the screen turns to Link, and then you start playing the notes. And it didn't tell you this, really. And I was doing this over and over, and I just couldn't get by, and it kept saying I failed and failed and failed, and it was really frustrating. And then even worse, they have, when you play a song, out of the pipe there was like a bubble, and when you played it correctly, it would burst. I sort of assumed that if the note bursts, you're doing it wrong. That just was common sense to me. It's logically, that's what I thought. That's not the case at all. The notes bursting is the right thing. So the timing was completely off for me, and I was playing at the wrong time, and I was struggling. I eventually picked it up, and once I figured it out, I was like, oh, this is so easy. If only they told me this. So I think Nintendo did a terrible job with the Spirit Flute, and it bothered me that the regular songs were so easy to play. There was no timing involved, yet the Locomo songs were really hard. But another thing that really bothered me was the collectibles. And this is one of my favorite parts of Zelda games. I always like collecting pieces of heart, the side quests, like collecting in Twilight Princess. There was the Pole Souls, the Golden Bugs. There was Gold Skulltulas in Ocarina of Time. There was, in Phantom Hourglass, there was a ton of them. There was the treasure maps. There was the power gems, the wisdom gems, the courage gems. There was the Sands of Hours in addition to the heart containers. There was a lot of collectibles. In Spirit Tracks, we got stamp stations, but I really didn't view them completely as collectibles since there's nothing physical we were getting. We were just stamping our book. I guess they sort of fell into it, but they were okay. The stamp stations, I liked them. But then we had the rabbits, the rabbit locations. Is there anybody out there that enjoyed collecting rabbits? There was 50 of them in the overworld, 50, and, well, after you got the rabbit net, you'd hit a boulder, and you'd go and try to capture the rabbit net. Some of them, you get them on your first try. Just tap, and you got them. Other of them, they were like seemingly impossible. They were always moving, and it was almost like luck. There was very little skill involved in catching rabbits. It was just pretty much luck. And what was even worse is if you miss him, you don't capture him, it runs off, and you only have 10 seconds. And then you can't just hit the boulder again and try it again. You have to get on your train, you have to ride to the nearest to a new realm, or you have to stop at the station, get off the train, get back on the train, ride back to the rabbit, and try it again. And in some cases, they were very far off from all the stations, and it was like, if you missed it 3-4 times in a row, you're talking a half an hour to get one stupid rabbit. And what were your rewards for getting the rabbits? You got a heart container after 5, which is great. But from 6 to 49, you got rupees and treasure. They couldn't have done anything more original with this. So, and then you got 50 rabbits, but that's at the extreme end of the game, and you get the swordsman scroll with the beam blade attack, which is cool, but there's nothing to do in the game once you get it. So, it was so frustrating, the rabbits, and that was the main collectible of the game. They had the side quests with the force gems, but those were like complete side quests. They were not collectibles, and it was really frustrating. And the fact that they didn't even have pieces of heart like Phantom Hourglass, so that already cuts the the collectibles down. So they could have done a much better job, and it was really disappointing. I was really disappointed with the collectibles.